Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast. It's Thursday, November the 18th, and like every Thursday, I'm joined by my buddy from DocSports.com, Mr. Doug Upstone, one of the best, the best sports handicappers in the country. Doug, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing excellent, Ross, as per usual. Let's see, we got Thanksgiving coming up, a week from today. So that's good news. Got a ton of good stuff, just in the NFL, some compelling games, this week. So yeah, so things are looking pretty good. And there's only two teams with buys, so we have one more opportunity than we've had more recently. So yeah, things are looking pretty good. And it's been an unusual season, not just from, I guess from the betting standpoint, but, in some other areas too, so far this year.
Yeah, so I know you're doing well. Tell the folks how you're doing, by the way, now that
sure.
we're on that topic.
Okay, well, just we'll get to that. In the NFL, it's been another fine season. 23-14, up a little over $3,500 in profit based on units. So it just has gone. I've had a couple of tough weeks. There's no question about it. But every time I've bounced back with a winning week. And like last week. Now, the last week was especially my big play. I mentioned I had a 6-unit play, and that was on New Orleans last week. And I had to sweat out them. It was a rare circumstance of you're rooting against a team that you've been rooting for all day to not get a 2-point conversion to tie the game, because New Orleans was +3.
Yeah.
And so that came through. But as I've said and I know we've talked about this on the show and other ways too, is that, just because you are lucky or fortunate, to win or just barely win, they still pay the same when you go to the window.
Yes. I always say that, when I'll lose a game very badly and a customer will call me and go, I can't believe that was your play last night. And I'll say, well, how much did you put down on it? Well, what I normally do. Well, did your bookie call you up or the sports book call you up and say, hey, you lost that game, didn't even cover, you missed covering by over 30 points. We're going to need to charge you more. No, that doesn't happen. Same thing when you go to collect on a ticket, right? You cover by 40 points, you're feeling great, and you're sorry you only put $200 on it. And you don't go, when you go up to the window, they don't say, Doug, fantastic job. Fantastic. So well, we're not only going to pay you $200, we're going to give you a $100 bonus because you were so right on. That doesn't happen that way, folks. A winner is a winner, a loser is a loser. And games like Doug just described, those are the ones when we lose them, we don't forget them. But when we win like that, it slips our memory bank and goes forward. It's just the nature of the beast, Doug. Doug, underdogs this year in the NFL, specifically away underdogs, 56-36 against the spread. 61%. I don't know what to attribute that to, because at this point of the season, it's very rare you see that kind of disparity in the records between underdogs and favorites, in this particular instance, away underdogs. Any thoughts in that regard, and any other thing from a betting perspective in the NFL you like to discuss?
Yeah, well, I'll answer the question, and that leads then into another area. Okay, and so from a betting standpoint, is this year, for whatever reason, there are fewer dominant teams, than normal or than we're typically used to. Usually we're, like I said, a week from Thanksgiving, and usually by Thanksgiving we have a pretty good indication who the 4, maybe 5 best teams are, and so from that standpoint, and we don't have that this year. And in many of these cases, these teams haven't been, even the teams with the best records, they have not been overly impressive. The Buffalo Bills, one of the best teams in the NFL. They've had some games that just made no sense. The Green Bay Packers, Arizona more recently, the Kansas City Chiefs. And Arizona and the Packers covered a ton in a row, but they're the rare exception. Okay. And if you really look at, what they've done, offensively, they're not really that good. Okay. And so, I mean, Aaron Rodgers deserves a lot of credit, but this team has failed regularly in the red zone. And so, like I said, the odds makers have been right on that, or I should say, the numbers have been right. And if you back them, they've covered. But essentially, I think that's what the deal is the better teams haven't played as well as favorites, which leads to if you want to make a futures bet, even at this point of the season, as to who's going to win the Super Bowl, Ross, I'm not. I can tell you
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
There's just no, I mean, yeah, Tampa Bay, defending champs, talent wise, everything's still there. Last year, they went through the same thing at about the same time, a dull period. And, let's face it, now we're adding a week and we get to the season and we get to December. That's really the time to roll. But still, usually there's a better inclination as to what, something you say, oh boy, this team's ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up Green Bay, and that's a good point, because when you think of the Green Bay Packers over the last decade, you think of explosive offenses. You think of Aaron Rodgers. Well, their defense has been tremendous of late. I mean, they faced Russell Wilson, albeit first game back from injury, and Patrick Mahomes the last two games, and gave up a combined 13 points. So that Green Bay defense is getting it done. And if the offense ever finds their groove, watch out. I mean, the Packers could be a force to be reckoned with when it comes to playoff time. And so we'll keep an eye on that. You're right, Doug. I mean, if I had to stop and think right now, yeah, I'm a little biased. I still think the Bills are the best team in the AFC, even at 6-3. I'm not sold on Tennessee, especially without Derrick Henry. Now, if he comes back into the picture, it's a whole different story. All of a sudden, their defense has played very well of late. But if you look at the rushing statistics without Henry, it's night and day, their numbers. So very difficult season in the NFL. You really have to be sharp, especially with all these underdogs covering. And, my big thing, Doug, is when I see this kind of thing occur, I'm always on edge because I know sooner or later that number is going to begin to go toward evening out. So just keep an eye on that, folks. Don't fall in love with underdogs for the sake of falling in love with underdogs because of how well they've done to this point of the season. Make sure you think things through and always keep in mind these types of numbers over a long period of time always seem to even out. Doug, your free pick in the NFL on Sunday. What do you got for us?
Well, what I'm looking at, Ross, is the Sunday night game, Pittsburgh and the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, at last look, haven't seen where Ben Roethlisberger is going to play. Doesn't mean he's not yet at this point, but it appears Mason Rudolph will get a second straight start for Pittsburgh. But no matter who started at quarterback for Pittsburgh, the offense has been anemic. They're averaging 17.9 points per game, which is 26th in the NFL. At the same time, the Pittsburgh defense has done a fine job. They've only given up 20 points per game. Without much of a running game and ranked last in the NFL in rush defense, the Los Angeles Chargers at SoFi or anywhere they've played are not so fine when it comes to controlling the ball in this instance. So their defense, okay, is on the field because they can't stop the run. They have the inability to run the ball. So the other team has a decided possession advantage, and that keeps Justin Herbert on the sidelines. Now, in the last 4 weeks, Ross, or last 4 games, but we've seen that not just yet is Justin Herbert the next coming of Dan Fouts or maybe even Phillip Rivers just yet in the Powder Blues for the Chargers. But I'm not saying he's not a good quarterback, but in their last 4 games, they've only averaged 19.2 points per game. So in this one, I'm going to throw this out. And for some reason, I thought you brought this up, but I could be wrong about that from, earlier in the year. But Pittsburgh, okay, coming into this game, they are 38-11-1 under on the road in their last 52 games.
That's why I was pointing downwards.
Yep.
Not because of your opinion, because, that's where they're going with the total on the road. Go ahead.
Exactly. And if you drill down that further off that number, the Steelers are 11-2 under in away games if the total is between 42.5 and 49. Now, when you add in that the Chargers, in this case, they're 6-0 under at home after gaining 99 or less rushing yards or fewer rushing yards in 2 straight games. Ross, I'm looking at that 47, and I'm going to go under the total in this Sunday night matchup.
There you go. The LA Chargers and the Pittsburgh Steelers to go under the total of 47 from Doug Upstone. Neither one of these teams could run the ball. And, Doug, when I look at that line to jump from 3.5 to 6 earlier this week, to me, that is an indication that the books are fairly confident that Roethlisberger is not going to play, because very rarely will, if ever, will you see an early move on an NFL game go 2.5 points. Now, we see it in college football on occasion, but not in the NFL. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say Roethlisberger isn't going to play. And if that's the case, I like Doug's under even more. I'm going to go against the grain a little bit, buddy. The Baltimore Ravens at the Chicago Bears. When I first took a look at this game this week, Baltimore was -6.5. Well, now they're down to 4.5 and 5. So that caught my attention as well. I've made some money on the Bears as a home underdog since 2016. As a matter of fact, 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 as a home dog of 4.5 or greater, following a straight up loss. And remember, Chicago had a bye week last week. The week before that, they deserved a better fate in a 29-27 loss at Pittsburgh, where Pittsburgh needed a late field goal to win that game after blowing a double-digit lead in the second half against the Bears. Justin Fields coming off his best game as a pro, so that's encouraging. The Baltimore defense is not what it used to be, Doug. In over the last 2 decades, when you think of Baltimore, you think of defense first. Of course, Lamar Jackson came into play, big upgrade to their offense. However, their defense hasn't been able to stop anybody with any regularity this year. And one thing the Bears do very well, which is shocking to me, because over the last couple of years, they have not been able to run the ball with any consistency. They've had numerous problems on their offensive line, but they've rushed for 136 yards or more in 6 straight games now. And with Justin Fields showing some improvement, that's only going to help the kid more, because it's going to open up play action passing opportunities. And remember, Baltimore's coming off that 22-10 loss at Miami this past Monday night. And a lot of people are going to look at that and say, well, you know what? They're going to bounce back. Well, think about this. They're playing on short rest. They're going on the road, and they're playing a team coming off a bye week. I'm going to take Chicago here, plus the 4.5 over the Baltimore Ravens. And Doug Upstone, he likes the Pittsburgh Steelers and LA Chargers to go under 47 on Sunday night. Doug, tell the folks where they could find you, what you might have going on this week.
The one thing before I even start with that, I want to just say I absolutely loved how you nailed talking like a Chicagoan by how you said Chicago with that little Chicago in there. Okay, nice work. Okay,
yeah,
trying to make, if you would have said the Bears, that would have been the whole enchilada there. But no, seriously, yeah. So another big weekend coming up in football. Have a 7-unit play going in college football, coming off a 3 1-1 week. So So looking to improve upon that or do better. I got 7 plays coming up, 4 in the NFL for this week, including another 6-unit play that I hope to take to the winner's circle. So far, 8-2 on those, Ross, in the top plays. So that's been very strong. And of course, we got college basketball, we got the NHL, we got the NBA, and thank goodness I don't do MMA, because that would be that's more than enough anyways for me. So I'm good to go. So looking forward to an exciting weekend for sports betting, Ross, and I'm sure you are too.
Yeah, a lot on our plate at this time of year, and we welcome the opportunity, and that's why we sort of need to decompress during the summer months when it's just baseball, because right now, like Doug alluded to, you got all the mainstream sports, winter sports, fall sports going on right now. And it's a lot to absorb on a daily basis, but it's what we do for a living, and we do it well. You could find me at rbwins.com. That's R as in Ross, B as in Benjamin, WINS.com. There you'll find my daily packages, subscription plans, 7-day, 30-day annual packages, 8-3 the last 11 in college basketball, 11-5 the last 16 in college football. So things are rolling on the collegiate level. It's been a tough NFL year for me, but those of you who have followed me for years know that sooner or later, when I catch fire, it doesn't stop for a couple months. So jump in the early stages. I would highly recommend. I'm going to have anywhere from 4 to 5 picks in the NFL on Sunday, including my 10-star game of the month. Also college football, like I just alluded to, 11-5 last 16, 14-7 the last 21, and coming off a 10-star top play game of the week last week with Ohio State. Another huge array of picks on Saturday in college football, including my game of the week. Until the next time, for Doug Upstone and Ross Benjamin, we like to wish each and every one of you all the very best. Take care and God bless, folks.